Hey guys, and welcome back to the second tutorial in Microsoft Word and referencing. This time we're going to talk about tables again, creating tables and having them update, but this time we're going to talk about creating tables for our figures, our equations, and tables even for our tables. So we'll start by opening up Microsoft Word 2010 again. And okay, to create a table that updates, first we go back to our references and we have an option here that says insert table of figures. Now I know it says insert table of figures, but this is going to be the same option or the same button we're going to use to create a table for our figures, equations, and our tables for tables. So why don't you click on insert table of figures, and we see here that this is going to be the layout for our figures table, and we can actually change this layout. I usually go down and change it anyways, but we can change it by going under General and selecting one of these options. I usually go with Formal. So, okay, we'll select OK and create our table. And now we have a table with no entries in it. No table of figure entries found. So, let's go down here and add a figure. So let's see. We can add, let's say, some clip art. And Microsoft Word has a lot of clip art that we can use. Well, why don't we go ahead and just add this random image in here. And okay, if we want this image to show up in our table, it won't automatically have our image show up, but we need to insert a citation for this image below it. And we can do this one of two ways. We can either just right click and add or insert a caption, or we can go to references and insert a caption this way. But, or I mean this button right here. But it doesn't really matter. So, okay, here's our caption menu, and we can give our figure some description. Let's say this is a figure, I guess. So, okay, and select OK. And now below our figure, we have our figure number being the first figure because it's the first figure in our document, and the figure caption here, our description. So now when we go back up and we update our table, it has the description we gave that figure, and this is figure 1 on page 1. So again, if I move this figure down to another page and I go back and I update, you can see, oh, we have these two options again. I'm just going to update the entire table. You can see that it's now listed as being on page 2. Okay, so it's basically the same exact thing if we want to add another table, but this time a table for our equations. Let's go back to insert table of figures again, and this time instead of citation label figure, we'll modify this to be equation. Okay, so again it shows us the layout we're going to have for our equations, and just select OK. No table of figures entries found, really equations. I know it's confusing. I don't know why it does this, but this is the way it does it. So let's go down here, and this time instead of inserting a figure, we'll insert an equation. Well, let's see. What equation should we put in here? We have some, I guess, built-in ones. I guess I'll just add this one here. And we'll say, I don't know, h equals this guy for some reason. Just because. Okay, so let's select on this equation and go back down to references again. Seeing a pattern here, we do a lot of stuff under this references tab, but insert a citation or caption. Okay, and this time instead of figure, what we want is an equation. So our label will be an equation this time. Alright, and why don't we give our equation a name? This is our first equation, I guess. Yeah, Okay, so now we have a description for our equation. It says equation 1 because it's the first one of the document. We go and we update our table of equations, and we see that this appears in here now. So we have equation 1 with our description of the equation and the page number. So just so you believe me, if I update this table of figures, update the entire table, this equation no longer, or doesn't appear within that table. And again, I'll move this down, put that on page 2, update entire table. We see the equation appears on page 2 now. So we got one more to add. So why don't we add it? We'll have a table for tables. Now we go back to references again. Insert table of figures. Still confusing, I know. I'm sorry. That's the way Microsoft does it, I guess. Maybe there's another way, but I don't know what it is. So, okay. Instead of equation this time, we'll do table. And here's our layout again, and just to be different, I guess, I'll change it to something else, maybe distinctive. Okay, so select OK, and we have an empty entry of an empty table for our entries of tables. Alright, so why don't we add a table? Insert a table, and we can make tables with this little menu here under the insert and then tables icon, but we'll make just a random table, and we have layouts for them as well, but this tutorial is more about just citing things. Alright, so we go back to references again after we select our table and insert caption again. Okay, and this time instead for a label, it's going to be a table. And we'll give our table a name, call it table 1, select OK. We have our caption with table 1. Alright, so if we update our table for tables, we see that our description for the table appears here. This is the first table in the document, and it's on page 1. Okay, I haven't done this yet, so I'll go ahead and do this just to verify. So if I add one more table, okay, yeah, there we go. And I'll make this guy black. Now, if, okay, we go back to references and do an insert caption. We see that it says table 2. So we'll give this another description. Table 2 this time. Okay. Now we go back to our table of tables and update field, update entire table. Alright, so now we have 2 entries in here, and they're both on page 1. And just because I've been doing this over and over again, I'll put him way down there, I guess. I don't know what page he's on, but I'm sure this will update to the right page. Okay, so that's pretty much how you create your tables for different things in Microsoft Word. Now, another reason why it's handy to create these tables at update is because what we can do now, let's see here, I just have some random text that I copy and pasted from, well, GameSpot.com. Anyways, this is some information on the new Nintendo that's coming out. So, if we wanted to add some entries, or let's say we wanted to cite a figure in here somewhere. Alright, so we'll go to Insert, and we have one figure that we have in the table, or one figure in this whole document anyway. And we'll do a cross-reference. That's the button we select. So we select cross-reference, and we're going to cross-reference one of our figures. Okay, so this is the only figure we have in the document. And we select this, and we have different ways of inserting this into our paragraph. We can insert the entire caption, which includes everything, including the figure 1 colon, this is a figure, or we can just do the number, which means that we'll just have figure 1 and a colon. Or this is sometimes handy, I guess, above and below. So if the figure appears below, it'll say below. If it appears above this paragraph, it'll say above. But why don't we just go ahead and just include this figure 1 colon part. And once we insert this, we see here that it says figure 1. Now why is that handy? Well, the reason why this will be handy is because what we can do is we can right click on this guy later and update the field if we add another figure. So say we added a figure this time, I don't know, and let's give it a caption again, and this is a figure instead of a table. So now we have two figures in our document. If you recall, we added one earlier. But if we update our table of figures, entire table, we have two figures listed here. So this is going to be our first figure, and the other one is going to be our second. If we update this entry here, it's going to correspond with our second figure. So if we referenced this figure way down at the bottom, then back up here in the paragraph, it will correctly update to reference that particular figure. Not this one. Anyhow, that's how you would do that with figures, equations, and tables alike. So this pretty much concludes tutorial 2 and discussing creating tables for our equations, our figures, and our tables, and referencing them in documents and making sure that they update correctly. It's really nice and handy if you're creating a book or some really long document like a thesis or dissertation. So hopefully you learned something. If not, maybe in the next tutorial we're going to talk more about referencing again. But this pretty much concludes this tutorial. See you in the next one.